Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's second online reading event. Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. My name's Tom Snarski, and I'm happy to be the MC of tonight's reading and one of the co-organizers of Performance Anxiety. If you'd be interested in reading at one of our future events, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me on Twitter at Tom Snarski, TomSnarsky, or via email, same spelling, tomsnarski@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristen Garth, who's the other co-organizer of the series, and I'll let you know how when she shares her poem with us later this evening. At each of our events, we try to feature 10 different readers who will each have up to 5, and tonight it'll be 6 minutes or so to share a selection of their writing with us. Performance Anxiety is a place for live poetry, for sure, but we also make space for folks who've taken the time to share recordings of their work with us. You'll hear one such recording at the end of our reading tonight. So without any further ado, I'm going to move into our first reader of the evening. The list that we sent out earlier, there are a few cancellations and substitutions just because life is complicated, so we'll get to that a little bit later in the evening. But I would very much like to introduce to you one of our returning readers from the first Performance Anxiety reading, Mila Blust. So Mila Blust's work has appeared in the Bitter Oleander, the Nassau Review, Rust and Moth, the Sierra Nevada Review, Rhythm and Bones, and more. Her debut poetry collection, Skeleton Parade, is forthcoming with APEP Publications in 2019. She's the social media director for Animal Heart Press. Mila, take it away. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. So the first poem that I'm going to read is called Famine. If my body was a red, red river, you didn't dip a finger to test, you drank, you bathed, you soaked until nourished, and I felt the tributary narrowing. If my body was a temple, you did not pray, you sinned, you begged, you fell upon your knees to worship, and I let you tithe your way to heaven. If my body was a waiting mouth, you did not kiss, but breathed in, swallowed, sucked until everything that was once I was now you, and you always loved you best. If there was a line where you ended and I began, you blurred it, you smeared it. Your anger rubbed my soul quiescent, and I only wanted to feed you, but I forgot to eat. The second poem is called American Dream. I can't hold you with this American dream. The knuckles are scraped, the thighs are bruised, and I'm afraid of everything that moves. I can't look into a mirror anymore without repeating what it already knows. It doesn't want me. I'm not home in this skin. If I break it, will there be 7 years of bad luck? Add it to my tab. I can't hold you up with this American dream. In America, the weight of you will be the death of me. And these next two poems are in my forthcoming debut poetry collection with APEP Publications called Skeleton Parade. This first poem is called Sorry to God. The heavy, damp embrace wraps my shoulders, and I am sorry to God. She whispers darkness to my bones, the girl inside of me. We both know she's home. Her breath on my neck, cold I can't resist. Wonder when she'll seduce me, when the razor will sing to my wrist. And this last one is called Spit or Swallow. My bones are hollow. I've had to let go of so many pieces of myself to make room for you. Little crumbs dropped in fauna to find my way home. But where is home? My arms are fractured. You've asked me to carry so much weight, and I have said yes, and said yes, and said yes. And now you're angry because because we, because she is saying, is screaming, No, I am not a rehabilitation program for broken men. The weight is too great, and the anger is a ghost, and the fear is a powdery moth choking my words, so I spit it out. I don't swallow anymore. And those are all I have.
Oh, that was wonderful, Mila. Thank you so much for leading us off, and thank you for coming back to Performance Anxiety. That was, again, Mila Blust, who I would like to remind everybody has that forthcoming collection from APEP Publications, Skeleton Parade, coming out this year. And you can follow her on Twitter at Mila Blust, Melablust, and you can find more of her work at www.milablust.com. So our second reader was originally slated to be Frankie, who is at Pope Modernist on Twitter and Instagram, and we hope Frankie will be able to join us next time. But in lieu of in Frankie's absence and in the absence of any other reader in the future of Performance Anxiety, one thing we're going to try to do just for fun is make sure that the ghosts of poets past are with us as well. So anytime we have a reader who can't make it for any reason, because life is, again, complicated, as is Performance Anxiety itself, we're going to share with you some poems from a departed poet who, we think is either underappreciated or just kind of deserves to be read more or something like that. And the poet whose work will kind of fill in for the gaps in our reading list tonight is Tina Folker. Tina Folker, who's a beautiful, beautiful artist who was published a little bit in the UK. She unfortunately died in 1992, I want to say. She had a small magazine, published a couple of books. One is called Jukebox, that I'm holding now, and then another is called Gash, that I'll read from a little bit later. So these two poems will just fill this slot briefly. The first one is called A Song. Spaceships are landing, heavens surrounding. From the pink forest, the birds have listened between the trees. No more black holes in space. I'm light years in love. And this second poem, also by Tina Folker, before we introduce our next live reader, is, I think, a masterpiece, and it's called Mother. You lie deep inside me now, buried acorn, closed cupboard of bats, blindly trying to escape their largely curved, unlipsticked day. Mother, what now that I'm all fed? Where's the white milk? That's the duck timer that Mila respected very deeply. Oh man, Tina Folker, everyone. Mother, what now that I'm all fed? Where is the white milk left waiting? What now that I'm inside out? Are the jars still full of stomach powder? Is the blood tap still running? Mother, my undrawable curtain, my clear dawn. That's just the first couple of poems you'll hear from Tina Folker. In the future, they will be less interrupted by quacks, but that's part of the spirit of poetry. It's ducks walking in on you whenever you don't think they're walking in. So I'll introduce our next reader, who we're very excited to have. Samuel J. Fox is a bisexual poet and essayist living in the southern U.S. He's a poetry editor at Bending Genres LLC. He appears in numerous online and print publications, as well as in coffee shops, dilapidated places, and graveyards, depending. He tweets at Samuel J. Fox, SAMUEL-JFOX. Samuel, thank you so much for joining us. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. My first poem I'm going to read tonight is titled Cardinals. A cloud of blood rises from the tall grass as soon as my shadow crosses the path I take to escape. The broken mortar and leaning bricks of a house I've called home for 20-odd years. And I never noticed how wings look a lot like blades in the hands of angels if you squint hard enough. My next poem is, so Halloween's coming up, and so I know it's like 3 months away, but I love Halloween and I love the spirit of it, but there's a day after Halloween called All Saints' Eve, which is the title of this poem. And this is after Bruce Beasley. It's an evening that feels akin to trading your childhood dream for someone else's broken heart. The scimitar moon unsheaths itself against the flint gray dark, The devil folding his arms as to say, "You're the one who wanted this." And then I'll read a longer poem, and this is dedicated to a friend of mine who lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, and his name is Matt Graham, and this poem is titled, "Hell is a Lantern Held Beneath the Chest." Politics and punk rock is what the world comes down to. The patrons and the patronized. When it comes to love, we act the fool. When it comes to God, we think we know it well. You tell me hell is the most illuminated place. If the devil was not once God's right hand, how would we know of trust and betrayal, magic, and putting makeup on the dead? Between breaths, cigarette smoke like a hymn between us, we pass and lift our lips to enjoyable banter and talk of suicide. Dear friend, dear saint of knife fights and shadow dancing, saint of ambient emo guitar swells, saint of broken hearts racing on far from designer drugs, we are adamantium. No heart can break without first giving consent to the inevitable scar. The devil's greatest trick isn't a trick at all. He loves us in our ruin because of his. Conversationless mornings spent aroused by some song we can't stop singing when we're drunk. Each day a hangover that won't stop repeating the same old slurry light. Dear friend, dear saint of the used and the users, dear saint enraged by the smear of bullshit this world keeps trying to fertilize and grow us in, we are unbreakable. If God was wrong to throw Satan from heaven, do you believe we would still have so much suffering to sing about? I'd give you heaven if I had it, but a poem must do. Language is the barbed wire we coax ourselves hurted by, and hell is a place so bright we will be able to see everything crystalline, our lives in amber tints of truth. In our last days on this earth, I want you to know, I've always believed in something, but it wasn't God. When darkness knocks around inside our stomachs, and fires are lit across the back of this world to stave it off, you and I could walk through it all, because all I ever believed was that you and I were here, together, on earth, at the same exact time, which I won't call a miracle, but will call a blessing. For we are twin cities burning at the same rate, both metropolises smoldering on the hills we were raised on. Love is a fire, not because it burns, but because it consumes. Do not speak of heaven now. Speak only in the language of this fire, of what we know. Thank you.
Oh, wow, that was fantastic, Samuel. Thank you very, very much for joining us with those poems and for also volunteering. I'd like to shout out Samuel for volunteering to record our next performance anxiety reading in August. More on that later for sure. And just a reminder, if you're interested in finding more of Sam's work, you can follow him at Samuel J. Fox, SamuelJFox on Twitter. So our next reader, again, would have been potentially Marissa Silva Dunbar, but had a last-minute scheduling conflict, so couldn't make it for this evening. So I'm going to share with you just two more Tina Folker poems. Tina Folker, as another quick aside, is almost impossible. It is almost impossible from what I've seen to find her work online. Like if you Google Tina Folker poems, you get nothing, which is really sad. So I'm hoping at some point press will take up the project of trying to get her work back into print in some serious way. This was a lot of like used book hunting on the internet to try to even get like these couple of books that I found. And here's one of the reasons why I think she should go back into print. This is an amazing poem, and it's called For Jack Kerouac. I feel like a washed up superstar, and I haven't even become one yet. Sometimes I still feel like a poet, whatever that is. I feel like a mother, a wife without a husband, a broken city girl. I feel faded, I feel like a joke. I feel I move in wheels marked Route 66. I feel like competing with the materialists in the pub for better houses, better clothes. I feel like hijacking a plane. The morning's been robbed to death. I feel like Santa Claus on Boxing Day, wanting his presents back. I feel drained. I feel like drinking a lot. I feel like starving myself for a week, then coming back for second helpings. I feel redundant. I feel finished. I feel like tearing all the glossy photos of myself up that haven't even been taken. I feel like moving to another planet. I feel I've got somewhere, then realize I'm still in the same place. That again was Tina Folker filling in for Marissa Silva Dunbar, who I hope will join us potentially next month or in a future performance anxiety reading. So I'm very happy to introduce, as a follow-up to that Tina Folker's Ghost reading, another other co-organizer of performance anxiety. So Kristen Garth, I'll read her bio in a minute, but if you are interested in reading at any of our series, again, you're welcome to contact me, or you can find Kristen on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE. And her website is Kristen Garth, KristinGarth.com. So Kristen Garth is a pushcart, Best of the Net, and Rissling nominated sonnet stalker from Pensacola. She's the author of 12 books of poetry, including Pink Plastic House from Maverick Duck Press, Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir from the Hedgehog Poetry Press, and the forthcoming Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream from Twisty Tea Press, and The Meadow from APEP Publications in 2020. So another pressmate from APEP. Again, the Twitter is at Lola, LOLAAND, Jolie, JOLIE. And Kristen, thanks again for joining us and for being the rock holding performance anxiety together. Take it away.
The first poem I'm going to read, it comes from my book that Dewey Decimals that RK Artist is publishing about my sexual awakening in the library. And it's going to be published soon also in 8 poems. And it's called There's Hazard in a Haphazard Literary Illusion. In 1984, she placed it in his hand, a folded I love you note, so he might understand. You are no Puritan, just camouflaged. Junior Anti-Sex League, a survivalist sublimating need from hunters, terrified to bleed secrets that some 15-year-old dark-haired girl reads. Long skirt flirts with teen pervert, proximate, unblinking eyes, English class, who surmise, through hemlines, hunch spine, a life not mine, dystopian heroine with curfew. Parents you hope, folded paper undermines. I'll find a paper I love you on the floor. Touch years before I'll know who it was for. And my second poem is just a poem that I had published in 521 called Broom. They speak websites. Ignore in black and white, brunette, exsanguinated, TV, mute, receptacle, you can't unsee. Her tight, perfected V of thigh, the yogic, brute solidity of pose, fingered calves, sky high, a dancer. You, the pigtailed girl abused next door variation. Some spry pike, driven deep into dark curls, slick pubic hair, an off-screen strong-arm ghost, bald back of head, in frame now, with a brush. Contextual clue. Broom. You loom, engrossed, her fate already photographed. No rush to flee, live girl they summoned here to dance. You're doomed. You wait for it, by Broom, entranced. And then these 3 poems that I'll read next are part of my book, The Meadow, that's forthcoming spring 2020 from APEP Publications. And they are poems on my experiences in the world of BDSM. And this book is in 2 sections called Small Town and Sex Object. And the first being experiences, abusive, masochistic experiences I had in my small town. And this is a poem from that section, also an homage to the movie Magnolia. It was first published in Barron magazine. But it did happen, and they will bring you medicine, bald spots, beige suits, the other ones, averting eyes, grind teeth, between pink cotton polka dots. You sniff their bouquets, poppies, powderized, to chase away forget-me-nots that look like cocks, uncircumcised, hooded ghost, preteen host, with lubrication from the eyes. A shock of pornographic memories, they dose you until tears are even upside down. Skull rain through sockets. Pestilence of frogs. Another thing you swallow, silent. Pound their violence inside a man-made fog. They wait until you are anesthetized. Avoid what's childish, peeks from dead brown eyes. And then these two are from the sex objects section of the Meadow, where I left my hometown and I traveled and got into the more structured world of BDSM. And the first one is called Carotid Lessons for Young Butterflies. First time you float inside some girl's dorm room, exchange quick goodbyes, nom de plume. It's clear her dom has used this place before. Assume he wants you on the floor. Instead, austere, he'll lend a hand, then find your throat as soon as you can stand. Against her fairy wall, ephemera, soul remote, you will swoon for some blurring god, Google exec, who calls you princess, won't fuck you, though he's erect. A god has limitations, too, ardors much harder than he is for you. Collects wet-winged insects with an internet for carotid lessons for young butterflies who never forget the first time they fly. And my final poem is called San Francisco. You are his Madeline in Vertigo, airport to Ernie's, to show you how much he listens, potential daddy dom. He knows you're grieving some other one. Won't touch you until you take ecstasy. He knows he's not your fantasy, but you are his, the tightest slit to desecrate. Eyes closed, awaiting weight that suffocates. He does it with his fingers, too. Asphyxiates until you don't remember who's inside you. Just another ghost appropriating you. Another city, a better view. Where you're still lusting for what's gone and dead. You could drown, tied down to a stranger's bed. That's it.
All right, Kristen, thank you very, very much again. And just a quick reminder, and for those of you who don't know, actually, I guess Kristen started Performance Anxiety with a tweet out there in the world being like, hey, we should start a reading series. And so it happened. So as the other co-organizer, if you want to get in touch with her on Twitter about reading or about learning more about her work, her Twitter handle again is at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE. And if you want to keep up with her publications, that's at Kristen Garth, KristinGarth.com. Cool. So yeah, we are making amazing time because, as you heard from the timer earlier, our readers are so respecting it that, just buzzes during random hours. So that's really cool. And Kristen is a returning reader as well. And I'd like to welcome one of our other returning readers who is going to be emceeing actually our August reading on the third Thursday in August, Ingrid M. Calderon-Collins. So Ingrid M. Calderon-Collins is an immigrant from El Salvador. She's the author of 4 volumes of poetry, Things Outside, Wayward, Zenith, and Ablution. Ingrid lives in historic Filipino town, California, with her husband, the painter and poet John Collins. Please welcome Ingrid M. Calderon-Collins and get used to her voice because she's going to be taking over the airwaves in August for us, too. Go ahead, Ingrid. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
No pressure.
Tom. I know, right? So this first poem is called 11 Months. And it's from a zine that my husband made for me. How courage-filled we are, with every noise and voice of reason ignored. How courage-filled we are in this flutter, this haste. How courage-filled. We halt for no one but this growth. It breaks the seams of our own rage, our own permissions. We sloppily embrace the ugly of each other, the beautiful, knowing that it lives with all the other things that thicken into healing. We know that time will wither, that drinks will soften, that words will worry. We know that this is finite, and in that lives eternity. You kiss the heart of my face. I leave my hand on your chest. Reminders of a pledge made of how courage-filled we are. So today I got some weird news in the morning. My mother called me and told me that her sister passed away. And I thought it would be appropriate to read my own poem about siblings. I don't think we're, like I always say at my own poetry readings, we're not all blessed with families that are amazing, but they're your family and you just kind of can use them as your muse. So that's what I did. This one's called Siblings. To my sister, who bathed me and fed me volcanic soil while mom worked on the laundry. To my sister, who pretended I was hers and hung me upside down to remind me I was hers in every angle. To my sister, who flew over city lights, who looked down on pulsing city veins and brought us to her. To my sister, who hated the sound of my breath, but assured me she'd always be there regardless of the sounds that left my mouth, regardless of my laughter. To my sister, whose head was bashed with a metal pipe, where now it quivers with an understanding that love doesn't always have to hurt. It can also feel like resting that same head on warm bosoms, warm grass, hot hands. To my brother, who scooped me up before the vicious dogs could bite my child face. To my brother, who wore silk and scabs like ornaments, as if he were a walking tomb, an altar. To my brother, whose limbs hung like broken branches, whose smile was a sunrise of salvaged shards. To my brother, who understood that love could be abducted, who understood that warm bosoms, warm grass, and hot hands could also lie and separate more easily if cold. To my brother, who withered into bones, who sank into the earth, who left just as he came, silent and alone. These next two poems, I wrote and posted them on my blog, which is notesofadyrtyyoungwoman.com, if you want to follow that. This one's called And All the Rest. It is with a heavy body that I bring this message to you. It is with a heavy torso that I carry a stillborn that comes with a promise of conversation. It is with heavy arms that I introduce my smallness. It is with these heavy legs that I show you my agile. I am in this only because you are in this too. I am not capable of more than I am equipped. But do not let my weight fool you into thinking that I am ready for war. Do not let my weight determine the amount of hurt you think I can endure. I am soft and pulpous, no rock under these bones. Instead, I feed off ash, and all I am is capable of rising. The next one is called Thick Set. I posted this and I got some pretty great reactions, and that made me sad, but that's okay. Meaning, because of the context. I am so sick of this container, it must be said. I am the moon in all corners, refracting, creating tides, emotionally within myself, outside myself, in the cracks of San Andreas, a circumstance of rainbows grayed with the coming of night. Even when the moon waxes, I am always full. I am a circumference of laughter and a handful of substance to keep your hands prosperous, to keep your fingers agile in case broken bones introduce their bent. I am encased into a casket of compressed organs. You are the same, with a different name. No sense in thinking otherwise, no sense in astrological acceptance, when all we will become is everything that ever was. And that's all I got for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ingrid. And thank you again for being one of our repeat readers and for coming back again in August to host. So Ingrid, just to remind you from what she's saying during her reading, has a blog called Notes of a Dirty Young Woman. So notesofAdirtyyoungwoman.com if you're interested in some of the poems she read from that. And if you want to follow her on Twitter, her Twitter handle is at Brujalamatepec, which is at BRUJALAMATEPEC. So thanks again, Ingrid, for that. Our next reader scheduled was Joanna Valente. Unfortunately, because of a combination of technical difficulties and scheduling stuff, Joanna wasn't able to be with us today. But Joanna is going to create space again for the ghost of Tina Folker to return briefly. I'm going to read a couple of poems from a pamphlet called Gash that Tina Folker published, I believe, in around 1990 with a really small press called Slow Dancer. I'm going to read these poems in the opposite order in which they appear in the book. But again, I'm just so convinced that she's an important part of British letters, and I hope you will be too by the end of this evening. This poem is called Separate People. The upset filled a river. It flowed through the months, the blood from my daughter's birth spilled like sharp rain. We gave her a hard name, like the end of winter, and all year I kept getting caught out, not properly prepared, like going out without a coat on. The upset filled a river, and you moved across from me on dry land. My arms were unable to reach as far as you were away, and I floated alone out to sea. I waited for you to reach out further, night following night, as when we first met, but you didn't. Now, she is the fabric of us, finely spun across one side of the bed to the other. Thematically related, this poem is called Upstream. Sometimes it's clear why I'm not the swan floating upstream in the middle of the lake on its own. Other times it's not. I fail to recognize why I am not splendid and admired, singled out, white and pure, wearing the swan's eternal wedding dress, creases kept in place, knowing no infidelity, no adultery. Instead, I find myself wedged miserably between the folds of everyday garments, unwilling to accept plain clothes. The price of high-rise skylines, city fumes fill my lungs. The swan floating in the middle of the lake with its white feathers sure and certain breathes fresh air. Nothing comes even vaguely close. Taking the day in its stride, maybe it will even die a sudden death, spinstered and feel no pain. But what is the view like from the middle of the lake? The swan doesn't bother to turn its head to see me on the bank, eyes wide open in awe of this creature, always dressed, waiting to attend a mythical wedding. Perhaps it has been jilted, or under its oily feathers is as much dirt as there is under these streets, where every day I walk, not glide. Or is the swan bored to death and wishes it could just get married and unzip its dress? That poem feels like such a mic drop. I love it so much. Last but not least, before I introduce our next reader, this is actually the opening poem of this Tina Folker pamphlet called Gash, and this poem is just called Friend. We leave our poems out with the milk, in with the rain. They feel like peach. They look like white. They have baby's eyes. Cuddled in rooms, emptiers of wine, feeders of ice. We leave our poems, out with the milk, in with the rain. We are alike. We are the same. With a brief pause for effect, I would like to now take a moment to introduce our next reader, who I am very privileged to call my pressmate at Another New Calligraphy. So Sarah Matson's poems can be found in the Journal Petra, Data Bleed, Ghost City Review, and elsewhere. Her chaplet, Electric Grandma, that I have right next to me here, is available from Another New Calligraphy, and her chaplet, Forgotten, Women in Science, is available from Damaged Goods Press. Sarah lives in Chicago with her rad husband and cats, and tweets as @Skeletor Writes. Sarah, go ahead, take it away. Thanks so much for being on Performance Anxiety tonight.
Hi there. Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so thrilled to be a part of this amazing lineup and read with all you incredible poets. So my first poem that I'd like to read is from my chapbook, Electric Grandma, and it is called The Chartreuse Virgin. The Chartreuse Virgin told me her wedding dress was green, and she carried a stinking lobster as a purse, buttered bits tumbling down the courthouse aisle, guests admiring the spectacle via Vaseline lenses and shards of glue. Things were different then, you see. The Chartreuse Virgin hails from a time of pin curls and Navy boyfriends. Back then it was bong hits on a rotary phone, sticky Xmas decorations, the eyes of all the babies I've aborted, steaming into hallway darkness, mosquito net eyelashes and polyester wrapped incisors, gnashing aimlessly, catching fireflies in damp palm cups. But that was the nauseous sunset of youth. The Chartreuse Virgin cast a necklace of polished urchin homes and displayed their corpses across a tranquil clavicle. Dust mites pinched her toes between stiff leather, and she had already decided her something blue was my grandfather's dead tooth. Cool, so the next poem that I'm going to read is also from Electric Grandma, and this is the title poem of the book, and it is Electric Grandma. A parlor of grandma familiarity, if grandma was a dealer, vintage but eclectic, radically grandma vibes, growing typical gender blossoms with translucent leaves and sleek, unself-conscious dewdrop eyes, the basement valley of Electric Grandma. She, of twisted chemical curls and squint-inducing neons. She, of corpulent coral mouth and butter stick leather bags, pockets slimly lined with watch batteries and pressed powder, and 2 soft packs of Virginia Slims and frail plastic bags to pick up dog shit faded white in the Florida sun. This was her kingdom of the yellowing photograph, the dust-free figurines, the Thanksgiving sweatshirts, the questions about the next meal during a meal, the rain or shine flea markets, the dollhouse table in every pizza box. This incandescent grandma was extinguished by a flat, bumpy, damp toad who managed to trip the expertly pressed trouser, the sensible leather moccasin, the fried matzah queen, as she walked a blind show dog, blue nylon leash in left hand, extra long 120 between right fingers, oh fuck, on her twisting lips, as cement connected with a hollow hip. That sweet marble-eyed dog didn't make a sound. All right, I'm gonna do one more from Electric Grandma, and this one is called Veal. When I'm sitting on the right toilet and close my eyes just enough to let yellow light peek under glittered lids, my leg will gently scratch chocolate polyester ruffles, and everything will smell like marbled soap. Sonorous amber warming lamp will diligently spin clockwise, while I twirl damp ropes and imagine I am the last corn dog on the rollers, massaging warmth into my golden breading. And I'm gonna do one more quick poem. This is a brand new one, and it's part of a collection that I'm working on about fashion and gender and consumerism. And this is called Gossip. Purple tipped and waiting in line for chicken, elegant paper sandals sticking to a silent treatment Thursday conflicted. Spiral golden teacups, exquisite in their cracks, like the lips of old lovers, queuing to spit into a lucky penny pond. In a hot vodka whisper, she said the first girl she pleasured herself to was some high school stunner, and I couldn't disagree. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was awesome. I want to steal the last corn dog on the rollers for a Twitter. I feel like that's just absolutely goals. So that was fantastic. And everybody, that was Sarah Matson, who I'm very lucky to call my press mate over at Another New Calligraphy. Her chapbook Electric Grandma is Another New Calligraphy number 58. It's available over there, and it's a beautiful buy. I really really encourage you to check it out. And if you want to follow more of Sarah's publications, etc., you can find her again on Twitter at Skeletor Writes, SKELETORWRITES. So without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our last live reader of the evening, who's been waiting very, very patiently, Anthony A.W. So Anthony A.W. is an LA-based writer. Their work has been or will be published in Boston Accent Lit, Drunk Monkeys, Mojave Heart Review, Rogue Agent, and Yes Poetry. His micro chapbook, Pantombed, will be published by Ghost City Press for their 2019 summer series. We're all really excited about that. And you can find him on Twitter at AN__O__. So Anthony, feel free to take it away as this duck timer that Sarah deeply respected and was unnecessary sounds you in.
Thank you so much. Hey everyone. Hey Ingrid, what's up? I'm really excited to be a part of this. I think it's super cool. So I had a dream this morning about this person in my life who we haven't been together for some time, but he's kind of my muse when I write, especially about love. My theme will be unrequited love for what I'm reading from. And I'm going to be reading some of my poems from this zine I self-published called Empty Scroll, which you can find on my website. The first one I'm starting with is called Entrapment Spell. And it starts with an epigraph from a poem titled 28 by Lawrence Sterling. Where lies love? Dove sta d'amore? Here lies some feeling of stuff. May I contain you didn't say much. May I contain you, my love. May I contain you. Say this in verse. I wish your curvature a wish doesn't serve to contain verse this form your lips. A square that we shared, mattress bed in one night, was lovingly cliched. My next poem is about someone else, but it's still on the same theme. It was published in Rogue Agent. It's called Love Poem Loading. Is there one word to unlock your heart? I text virtual Rolodex baiting congratulatory sad lust. Your lone wolf attracts bears west side dutifully elsewhere. Months ago, you shared your abstracts by cell phone. Is there a word for this impermanent stroke? We intersected somewhere in the universe. It smirks, candles flickering along my dumb. I was looking up. You asked one simple question. Are you writing? This next poem is a pantoum, and it's called Say. It'll be published in Boston Accent Lit. I love you as the day goes still. I am never enough. You text me, say, the day goes still. We keep typing and you text me. Say, I have every single thing for you. Keep typing, and why don't we have everything we want? Do we love what we lack? What spills over goes. I love you as much as we don't say what is enough. This next poem is a visual poem. It's formatted like a heart, and conveniently enough, it was published in Mojave Heart Review, and it's called Like and Hearts. To be happy is like a like. I like to those likes that you once liked, like that's just life. You live, laugh, love, like who you once liked. You make likes, not fights. Just breathe and just like the life, right? This next poem was published earlier this year by Soft Cartel, and it's called Drunk Texts. You left me on read in the middle of a dark room, by a bright light through a tunnel, some kaleidoscope apocalyptic ultraviolescence. The Angel is a city of palm trees, metro trains, and all the crazies. Delusional, was I? Typing. Can discourse happen between two people over airwaves? Send. Typing. Can I ride these waves to you? Send. Typing. Am I in too deep? Send. Typing. Do I look like I'm breathing to you? Typing. And that was that poem. The last poem I'm gonna read, it's formatted kind of like a Mad Lib. So the way I've been reading it is by reading kind of the wording below the line. But I've also thought about like putting words into where the Mad Lib would be. But it's kind of an experimental poem, and it's called In My Questioning of Relationships, and it'll be published in Ingrid's zine, Sub Rosa zine. One of the 5 W's do you think of me? What do you intransitive verb for? Can you provide me noun? Can our noun last? Will you grow adjective of me? What brings you to this place? And what brought me here / to you? Pick one. When you make eye contact with me / them, pick one. Is it the same as when you transitive verb hands with a lover / stranger? Pick one. Preposition, the place. Are we ever going to love / see? Pick one. Each other again. Did we pick this type of cuisine restaurant because the type of food was good / bad? You pick. Or because it was the ordinal number thing to come to mind? When I am present participle, do you see me as a job title? Or because you have known me for a amount of time, do you see me / me, you pick, more / less, you pick, as a type of individual? At the bottom / core, you pick, of your heart / mind, pick one. Do you love / remember, you pick, me? Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, that Mad Lib poem was really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm really glad to hear that another person in this Skype call is publishing it. That warms the heart. Also, I want to steal make likes, not fights. Yeah, you can like maybe print that and across the like corner of the zine as like a philosophy. Make likes, not fights. I think that's a good plan. But that was beautiful. So that was Anthony A.W., who you can follow on Twitter to find more of their writing at AN__O__. And keep an eye out for Pantombed as part of the Ghost City summer series, which is coming out really soon. And then his his zine, rather, Empty Scroll, which you can find more of when you follow him on Twitter and find his site. So we have reached the end of our list of live readers for the evening. So I'm going to introduce, like we said at the beginning, Performance Anxiety does make space for recorded poetry that's shared by folks who we would love to have on live, but life is life. And also Nick, who is going to be sharing these poems with us, unfortunately is coming down with something. So in order to spare their voice, they shared this recording with us that we'll play momentarily. So Nicholas Bond is the author of My Circus Mouth and I'm Trying, both available from Ghost City Press. They edit Epigraph Magazine and live in Tallahassee, Florida. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to cue up the recording that Nick made for us, and then I'll let you know where to find more of Nick's work after that.
Hey everybody, I'm going to read 3 poems for you. So this first poem is called Statement of Purpose. You saw how I limped in, the drummer in the corner playing too loudly for any polite conversation. Likewise, how much effort it takes to keep these walls standing, to keep a crib sheet hidden with no pockets. This is what I mean when I say we're empty as a fancy bowl, of the sort only your rich relatives could ever afford, falling regretfully to the floor. But even then, in loss, a small chip of porcelain thrown lightly is all that you need to shatter any car's windshield. Achilles is best known for his tendon of all things. It seems that our soft bellies are not what makes us trustworthy or capable or interesting. Could you, with your good face, commandeer this room? Could you plan a dinner that might fill a comically oversized table? I can't. I'm sorry. I have to go because I left my hands at home and I have to go get them. I have a folder full of guides to identify edible plants. I have too much anxiety to focus on a video. I can't pretend I know what name anything in this world deserves. or if my ideas of worthiness were invented or received. I realize the unimpressive limits of my language every day. So is it important for you to know that I'm disarmed before we proceed with this? I leave comfort and become distorted in familiar cities. I feel timid with influence, strange and somewhat like an improperly designed elephant. God, please don't take my rib. I don't have enough to spare. I am a simple animal, nothing more than this. I only want to lie in a field with a lover, sky a warm plate between us and the valve amp of sun, with whatever complications this idealism might drag behind it like a tattered blanket. But I was never anything more than an anarchist without a plan. No, when you press the button on my back, I say the same 5 realistic action phrases. Every day I wake up with a trumpeter swan peacefully asleep in the hollow of my mouth. Then, when I sit up and yawn, the bird flies free. Wings spread wider and wider and wider in this room that was always too small for us. This poem's called Big Mood. It may look like I'm doing nothing with my time, like I'm waiting for these collapsing days to catch up to me. But don't you realize that I'm building my brand? What do I have besides my online presence? Certainly not my body. If I ever get sick, I'll have to really hype my GoFundMe since I don't have health insurance. So rise and grind, motherfucker. Modem tones sound like love songs from a speaker hung inside my skull. I'm lightheaded. I'm on the clouds. I'm trying to kill every one of my idols before they inevitably let me down. If I was famous, I would spend my life more nervous at the gas pump than I already am. But the paparazzi are not interested in how I might slide a wedge between being and non-being. So fuck it. I'll make this my poem for the end of the world. Oh paparazzi, where will you be then? In the dark? After the gasoline's gone? After the money's gone? Soon I'll be pacing anxiously around a waiting room as the void grows ever larger. This is not how it's supposed to go. I just want to watch old skateboard videos buffer over dial-up, see reality burst into itself like paper fortune tellers, finally pop a perfect kickflip down the biggest set of stairs you've ever seen. And this last one is a recent poem called Song for the Unwept. Oh, if only the body didn't need the many pains of experience. If we required nothing but what we brought with us from nothing in this terror of recursion. Our bone cement, our faces covered in caulk to rid them of their holes. I'll remind you that gasoline's only value is its potential to burn. The almost black around the edge of the fire. The unease between almost and certain. See how I filled these fields with my complicated hands? See the water freezing in a sidewalk crack? Sometimes narrative is just an attempt at order. Sometimes it's a spatial concern. Think of all the yeast that has to die to make a loaf of bread. Play music for me. Feed me wire from a spoon and tell me it's going to be okay. That one day the machinery will cease its industrial dreaming and everything will be made only of sound. In a brilliant field of white light, a lone dandelion would appear so spectacular.
Whew. And what a note to end on that was. So that again was Nicholas Bond, to whom I'll be grateful for a very long time because they published my work in Epigraph magazine a long time ago, and that was really rad when I was a little baby poet. So if you want to read more of Nick's work, let me get more accurately where that is. Nick's chapbook or microchap I'm Trying is coming out in that same Ghost City summer series that Anthony's Pandoomed is coming out on, so keep an eye out for that. And if you want to follow Nick on Twitter, you can find them at 1,000,000 horses, but a number, so at 1,000,000, the word horses, HORSES, or you can find more of Nick's publications at nicholasbon, NICHOLASBON.com. So that really concludes our reading for the evening. So thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their brilliant work with us tonight. And thank you to our listeners, all of them present, future, etc., for listening and ear to poetry this evening. By way of wrapping up, I'd just like to let you know that our next online reading event will take place on August 15th, 2019. Our very own Kristen Garth will be reading, but like she mentioned, Ingrid M. Calderon-Collins will be hosting, and Samuel J. Fox will be taking over the role of making a recording to share with you all. I'll be sitting that one out because I'll be on my honeymoon in Aruba. Also, a couple months out, From now, I'm very happy to announce that with the coordinating help of Johnny Longfellow, our first fall reading for Performance Anxiety in September will be a special feature of the Powwow River poets from Newburyport, Massachusetts, and some other writers of formalist verse. So we can't wait for them to take the proverbial stage, and that'll be September 19th, I believe. So thank you so much again for listening, and as is tradition after n equals 2 times, we're going to end on a very, very small poem by Shannon Burns. It's called Love Poem. Where are all the medium-sized towels? I love you.